This is Dave Whorton. Welcome to the Evergreen Experience 2020 on this Friday, May 29th, 2020. The goal of this conversation is to provide real-time insights into the Evergreen leaders' experiences and innovations in this period of crisis, uncertainty, and rapid change. Today, I'm joined with Alissa Leinonen, CEO and founder of catering company Gourmondo Co, and Bryan Papé, the founder of MiiR, a drinkware company with a social and environmental mission. Alissa and Bryan will speak to the impact of COVID-19 on their respective businesses, the critical role of their purpose in guiding them and their teams, and the importance of strategic partnerships and reinvention to their businesses in this challenging time. And finally, their outlook moving forward. With that, let's get started. Hello, Alissa.
Hi there, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Hey, Bryan.
There he is.
Hey, Dave. Hey, Alissa.
Hey there.
Hey, Bryan. Good to see you.
Great to see you all.
Well,
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Really pleased to have you on board. Alissa, I think I'm going to start with you if it's okay. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Sure. So I am here in Seattle, Washington, fourth generation Seattleite, and I started in the food world when I was about 14. I started as a dishwasher and then just kind of worked my way up in kitchens. Ended up getting a business degree from the University of Washington and started my company Gourmondo shortly thereafter. So I was about 25 when I started that, and have been running it and kind of growing it slowly over the years up until now. So, but I love it. I love what I do. I'm very lucky in that regard. It's fun being in the business of food.
Oh, that's great. Bryan, how about you?
Yeah, I'm Bryan Papé, founder and CEO of MiiR, and like you said, we sell reusable drinkware. We've had many cups in the Evergreen Experience at Summit, which has been great. I started MiiR with, yeah, there we go, perfect. I love it. Really with the idea of marrying business and philanthropy together. So the idea of how do you give back every single day with every single transaction. And our first product happened to be a reusable insulated water bottle. So I started the brand in 2010, located in Seattle, Washington. We have a Seattle flagship cafe. So we opened our cafe in 2015. And the idea was to serve the beverages that people hold in our containers to our community within the Seattle market. So it's been about 10 years and absolutely love it. I'm having the time of my life. So it's great.
I'm sorry, am I talking to you guys in January or am I talking to you in May?
Right. Yeah.
But we'll get to that. Well, Bryan, I'll just continue with you for a moment. So kind of what was the state of the business kind of heading into early March, and kind of what happened and how quickly?
Yeah, so we were on a 100% year-over-year growth pace, which was wild. Our growth had actually accelerated over the past 2 years. We had made some key changes with our leadership team, and the brand really started to take traction around the world. And so we were on 100% year-over-year growth, which was wild. And then in March, at first we were quite concerned about production because we produce a lot of our products in China and have a lot of business in Asia between Korea, Japan, and China that we sell to Starbucks, Patagonia, and those regions as well. So at first we were worried about capacity and production with it hitting in China first. But quite quickly, obviously in March, we were worried about demand. And so for us, our lead generation is usually a weekly metric that we monitor very closely. And our leads declined by 90% within 1 week, just off of a cliff. And so middle of March went from hundreds of bookings a week to very few. So it was very abrupt, very fast, and also the concern of reusable drinkware, and many cafes around the world had stopped accepting reusable drinkware behind the bar. So that was a big concern for us as well.
Thank you, Bryan. So Alissa, how about you? How was business kind of going into the
pre-COVID? Yeah.
So, pre-COVID.
Right. We'd have a really good run. I've had the company for 24 years now, and about 5 years ago, I made a commitment to really kind of focus in on it. My kids were getting older, and so I wanted to kind of see where we could take the business. And the last 3 years, we've been on a pretty aggressive trajectory, and so we're 3 years in a row, we're one of the fastest growing companies in the Northwest. And we were coming into 2020 hitting records in January, hitting records in February, and March was looking to be kind of like a big barn burner for us. So I had 253 employees and about a dozen cafes all over the city, lots of catering, lots of box lunches. I think about 5,000 corporate clients, and we were feeding anywhere between 4,000 and 5,000 people a day.
Wow.
Pre-COVID.
Then what happened and how quickly?
Well, in my space, in food and beverage, I mean, we got hit hard and really, really fast. I know Seattle became kind of the epicenter of COVID for the nation that first weekend in March when we had the deaths announced in the assisted living facility. And I remember thinking, oh, this is brutal. So I came into work on Monday and we were starting to get calls for cancellations and rescheduling. And I told the controller, I said, hey, you need to reforecast. We need to probably pull this down 20%. Let's take another look at things. And then at the end of the day, we were down 40%. The next day, we were down 60%. We'll keep reforecasting. Within 48 hours, I lost 80% of the business. I was like, okay, forget the forecasting. All right, this we're gonna have to reset completely. And so that was intense. I mean, I've never experienced anything like it, having run this company for so long. And obviously, you go through some real financial crisis as you're growing and as you're learning. And but to have it hit this hard, this fast was certainly unprecedented for me.
That's incredible. 80% in 48 hours. 80%
in 48 hours. Yeah. Yeah. It was a lot. It was intense. It was a little surreal. It was hard to catch up to, like, is this really happening? And this is really what's going to be the new normal. So it was intense.
Incredible. All right. Yeah. Well, we're gonna pause there because we're gonna come back to kind of how you adapted to this. But we'll go to Bryan. So Bryan, leads were drying up. Get supply chain issues potentially out of China. Not sure if people are going to be able to use reusable mugs, your mugs in coffee shops and whatnot. So tell us kind of how you adapted to this, and just go from there.
Yeah. So we were quite concerned. We had a fair amount of bookings. 7 figures of bookings, pre-orders essentially from our retail partners. So we were immediately concerned about cancellations, and everybody was closing. Patagonia was closing stores. Starbucks was closing their shops. Everybody was basically shutting down. And so we were obviously quite concerned about what that meant for our business. And from there, we took a stance that we were going to work with our partners. Brand partnership is a huge piece of our business. And we said, we are with really strong brand partners. And if they come for requests to reduce orders, cancel orders, we're not going to push back. We're going to accept those, and we're going to partner with them and be there for our customers. So we had about, I want to say $500,000 to $750,000 of cancellations in March of pre-bookings that basically evaporated. Fortunately for our business model, we have a lot of blank colors, so things that are not decorated or value added yet. So it's nothing that couldn't necessarily be changed for another customer at the end. And then our team really rallied and came together with an idea of how do we create something that somewhat memorializes the experience that we were all facing of being quarantined together. And they found this amazing tattoo artist that used to live in Seattle, now lives in Boise, Idaho, Kyler Martz, very famous and popular in kind of the art and tattoo community. And he came up with this beautiful graphic, and it was, "We are alone in this together." And it was kind of an octopus, and everyone's kind of socially distant on all the tentacles. Someone's drinking coffee, someone's reading a book. And we it's funny looking back, we thought, okay, we're probably gonna sell like 400. And then we also, generosity is a core tenet of MiiR. And so we also wanted to give $5 to Feeding America because we knew that there were people who were struggling to get by. And so we launched it, and we ended up selling 8,000 units over the course of about 2 or 3 weeks, and full price, actually $5 more because we donated an extra $5 on top of our give. And so we went from very little online sales to a trend that has stayed since on our website. And now we're up about 500% year over year on D2C, on our direct consumer business on our website. So a quick pivot, some ingenuity by the team, brand partnership, and that's kind of how we pivoted. And then the layoffs, we did have a handful of layoffs and furloughs. We had to close our cafe. And so we furloughed those employees fairly quickly. And we did have some layoffs for some positions that we just did not see coming back for the next 12 months. So went through that transition as well.
Yeah. I'm sure that was hard for you to do, Bryan, given how close your team is.
Yeah, it was very difficult. It was hardest thing I've had to do in business for sure.
Yeah. And I have seen on Instagram that mug you're talking about. People love that mug. They want posters of it. They want T-shirts of
Oh,
it.
everything. Yeah,
Animated
yeah.
it, so like the tentacles
Yep.
are moving, and
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a
that's
good
cool.
one. It's we'll get into the other piece of it too, but it's been a great lesson for us. A lot of learning there.
That's great. Well, Alissa, back to you. So I don't know what you
Boy.
do if in 48 hours you lose
Yeah.
80% of your revenues. Do you
Right.
sleep?
You know, it's funny.
How do you think?
Yeah, actually what I did was, I think I was so knocked over. I was like, I got to take a minute. I got to wrap my mind around this. And I actually checked into Inn at the Market Hotel, which is right where I started Gourmondo. And I sat there and I remember looking out the window and I was like, what are you going to do? You know, are you going to keep these doors open? Are you going to take on, you know, running the company through a pandemic? Are you going to do it? And if you are, you damn well better be an essential business. And what's that going to look like? You know? And so I also recognize, you know, we'd lost all the business and cash flow was going to be a real problem if I was going to keep those doors open and keep those teams employed. So I made a commitment to myself that I was going to go big, and I moved all the savings out of my account, put it all back into the company, and I was like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it hard, and I'm going to leave it all on the field. And I did believe that I was in a space that could actually provide for those in need. That's what I do. I feed a lot of people every day, and I'm just going to have to look at an entirely new customer base. And so when I made that decision to keep the doors open, to put my money back into the business, everything I had, then I had to think about, okay, what do I do now? And the first thing is I got to protect the employees. I mean, I got a lot of people out there and I've got to make sure they're safe. So that was the first priority, and making sure we were spending thousands of dollars on PPE, getting face masks wherever we could find them. We already had gloves. We already had really rigorous sanitation and different food safety protocols in place. But it was also about resetting the entire facility. And I was in the middle of $1 million move to a new facility. And so making sure that that new facility was bionic and really built like a fortress, and we could keep people with a lot of distance. So once I felt like I had the teams really safe, then I was like, okay, now we got to figure out, how do we support the community? And so I started calling and talking to some of our corporate clients. And we've got great corporate clients, Amazon, Nordstrom, Starbucks, and they're fabulous. And so as I was chatting with Amazon, I said, listen, I got great teams. I got, 45 delivery drivers. I've got a fleet of 30, vehicles. We'll do whatever we need to do to help. So, if there's anything we can do for you, if there's anything we can do for the community, I want to keep these teams going. And we got the facility and we got the people. And then they came back to me a couple of days later and they said, hey, we've been talking to the housing authorities, and there's thousands of low-income elderly folk and disabled folk, and they're quarantined in their homes, and we can't get them food. And the food banks are under a ton of pressure. The nonprofits are overwhelmed. Is there any chance you guys could work with us? And I said, yeah, sign us up. I mean, we feed 5,000 people a day. What do you need? So we said, we'll do it at cost. We just want to keep the teams going and we want to help. And so we went into contract with them to provide meals for 3,000 of these kind of low-income elderly and disabled folk, and we've been feeding them, on a weekly basis. Let's see, we're up to 155,000 meals that we've fed them in the last 2 months. And I'll tell you what, there is no clientele that is more appreciative and fabulous to work with. I mean, we get these handwritten little notes and cards, and it's been, I think for us, it's given us a real sense of purpose and pride in a tough time when you can't see your own family and feel like you're doing something to help. And then we also reached out to a couple other of our corporate partners like Nordstrom, and we said, hey, do you want to work with us to maybe help the frontline workers? You're making face masks. Why don't we feed them? And so we partnered with them, and we provided 1,200 meals to the frontline workers at Children's Hospital. And then we got calls from the Ronald McDonald House asking if we could help feed their families and their children who are having cancer treatments and quarantine. So we started taking care of them. And then the mothers at Mary's Place, the single moms and their children who have been homeless in Mary's Place, we started feeding them too. And then finally, I'm really committed to Youth Care, which is an organization that takes youth off the streets, and they give them education and they give them job training. And I often hire those guys back into my cafes. And they were in trouble. I'm like, well, now I got to feed them too. So I called a bunch of my friends who are actually female business owners and entrepreneurs and said, all right, women, get on it. I got to feed 1,000 meals to these kids. So what you got? Let's all do it. Do what it costs, but we got to do it. So they all came up, 18 of them. Are like, all right, sign me up, sign me up, sign me up. So I think that's been the silver lining for us, is that we've been able to do meaningful things for our community. But it's been intense. I mean, I've never worked this hard, and I don't like to work that hard actually, but it's a work at a time. So yeah.
Sounds like you're making a real difference. So what kind of meal are you delivering? I think that's pretty interesting for people to know.
Well, that was the other thing I said to Amazon and all these corporate partners. I said, listen, I am not interested in just sending these guys a sandwich or a burrito and checking a box and saying, hey, we did it. I really want them to feel respected and recognized and appreciated. And so if we're going to do this, I want to make sure that this is a gift. It's a full meal. It's an entree. It's a side dish. It's a dessert. It's got little snacks. And, I also called a bunch of different Seattle food vendors, like, Mario Mondo's Meats and Donnie Borrachini of Borrachini Foods. We're all Italians, and so I'm like, come on, people, let's get on this. We need to help. And so they were like, all right, we're going to sharpen our pencils. And I'm like, this is not the time for profit. This is the time to take care of these, these people in need. You work with me and it'll allow me to feed as many people as possible, and we'll have done something here, And so, the Merlinos family, they were on board, everybody was on board. And so we were able to actually really create beautiful meals. I mean, like steak, salmon. We had a fabulous local seafood company that donated 600 pounds of salmon for these meals. So it really allowed us to make some beautiful, beautiful food for people who needed it.
And back to your original objective, were you able to keep the team together by doing this?
I was very lucky. Yeah, we did have to do, much like Bryan, we had to do some layoffs in the beginning, and that is truly one of the most painful parts of running a company. It's hard when these are good people, and some of these people worked for me for years. You're responsible for them. So I personally did all the layoffs. We had about 20, actually 22 to be exact. I did every one, and then thanked them all for their time and told them I intended to bring them back. We've been able to bring back a lot. We had some part-time servers, bartenders, delivery drivers that we were not able to bring back simply because there's just no events. But the core team, we still have about 152 people on active payroll right now. So we've been very lucky.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Thank you. And when I think of both of you, I think of partners. You guys are really good at partnering. And let's say you pivoted your corporate customers into your partners to help support you providing services to people in need. And
yeah, we went from feeding executives, to feeding low-income seniors, and it was a quick pivot, but it's been fabulous. So, yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I can see how important that is to you, Bryan. Tell us a little more about how you think about partnerships, how that's worked for you pre-COVID, post-COVID. I'd be curious.
Yeah, so we have a quite robust program where people want to co-brand with us. So we don't really do private label. It's mostly all the MiiR product, and then we decorate the drinkware with other people's logos. Conveniently, and it's a lot of our customers are on this call. So we worked with Brian Canlis, when they pivoted and did their great pivot, the Bagel Shed, we did a camp cup with them, and proceeds went to a local nonprofit there. And we work with Wynn at Odell's, and so we have these beautiful partnerships where it's a collaboration. It's not just us saying, hey, go and sell our product and make money off it. It's a collaboration. And we've kind of started the brand from day one that way. And for us, it's always continued. And for us, brand partnership means showing up even when it's hard for them. And it also means we want to get creative. And so what was cool about the Alone Together campaign was that not only did it work on D2C, but we went out to all of our cafe business and the coffee industry and any B2B customer and said, hey, we understand that a lot of you are closed. You don't have anything to sell. We created beautiful sell sheets and said, hey, go and pre-sell these. We don't need upfront payment. Go and sell it and then come back, almost kind of like, wrapping paper for soccer teams or whatever the thing is. Go and sell it and then let us know how many you need and we'll make it and then ship it to you and charge you later. And so that was, our customers were so thrilled that they had something that was kind of time bound. It was meaningful. People felt connected to that product. So people were super appreciative of us being able to come with a solution to help them during these times. And then, the ability to work out whether it was payment plans for them to pay later, reduce some of their inventory, get creative. So it was all about brand partnership, and it's definitely paying dividends today as we start to see a little bit of recovery. Those customers remember us being flexible and working with them. So brand partnership, it's beyond just a logo on a cup. It's about how do you work with somebody? How do you care for them? How do you help them? And so we felt quite lucky that we were able to help our brand partners through that time, and really help really, really big companies. And we're just a very small company in the scheme of things, but it was cool to be able to help out some of these really, really big companies who had helped us for many years.
That's great. So Bryan, how are you feeling today versus perhaps when your lead sheet started drying up in early March?
Yeah, I mean, it's we had an offsite, and we were just checking it. We check in at the beginning of all of our leadership team offsites, and the dramatic difference. I mean, it couldn't be more different than 180 degrees as far as just. I'm always an optimistic guy, and it was the March was super hard. April was a little bit better, but May has been a lot better, and I'm feeling the orders are starting to come back in. Our team has really innovated around kind of two things. The artwork that we did for the Alone Together campaign has inspired what we're calling the AIR project, which is an artist in residence program. And so every quarter we're going to partner with an artist so we can help the artist make money, find a charity that they really like, a nonprofit, give some additional money to that nonprofit, and then create this limited time offering that our D2C customers are really hungry for. So there's this kind of innovation happening there. Our team has banded together. So it was a reinforcer that we were on the right track with our culture, and that there weren't these silos. When everything kind of hit the fan, everybody like roll up their sleeves, and one of our core values is find a way. And I'm so proud of our team for really digging in, finding a way, and getting through it. So I feel way better today than I did 2 months ago.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And Alissa, and same question for you. How are you doing today versus when you lost 80% of your revenues in 48 hours?
Right. Yeah. The big punch in the face. Yeah. Obviously, I think we're all starting to wrap our minds around this new reality. And I think that every one of us is trying to kind of reset and think about, okay, how do we reinvent ourselves? I mean, I swear to God, if I hear the word pivot one more time, it's like pivot, pivot, pivot. But honestly, I mean, that's what we're all doing. And I think it's times like these that actually make us stronger, and they make us smarter, and they push us. And I think we need to be pushed right now. And I think that we will continue to need to create and innovate. I don't think this is the end of anything. I mean, I think things are going to look different, and I think that they're going to look different for a very, very long time. And for us, the next chapter is, how do we reset the business in our space, knowing that you won't be having events the way you have? And how do we, take care of our customers who are now working from home and not up on their corporate campuses? So we're spending a lot of time and energy just around that innovation and sort of subscription meals and work from home, and taking care of our clients where they are. And I think this is going to be a journey. I think it's going to require a lot of discipline and a few more gut checks, and you just keep on going. I think you got to focus on where you want to go. Be proud of what you're doing,
Yeah. It sounds like, just that continuous adaptation, and then, at least for you, continuing to serve the people you care most about, and doing it in a way that's really meaningful for you. Now, if you look in your crystal ball, you kind of hinted at this, but do you think it's a few years before perhaps the traditional catering business comes back, or you forever changed? Has the industry changed?
I think it's going to be a while. I think it's going to be, 1 to 2 years. I mean, you got to get the vaccine. You got to get people comfortable going out in large groups. And I mean, there's no crystal ball to know what that looks like. But I also think that people are going to be shifting where they're working, and some of their, their eating habits are going to change too. And I think we're right now in the middle kind of figuring out what that looks like. But it's going to definitely be different. So I think, we need to pay attention to that and be willing to be adaptable, and take a lot of humility too, and realize that, maybe some of the models that we launched originally are not going to be relevant in this new environment, and have the humility to pay attention to that, and be curious, ask questions, and learn.
Great, thank you. Okay, Bryan, how about you? What's your crystal ball kind of for your industry, and then if you have overall thoughts about the economy?
Yeah, for us in March, it was really scary when, reusables were kind of not necessarily banned, but kind of highly frowned upon, that it could carry bacteria and viruses. And the reality is that risk has kind of always been there. We saw a massive resurgence of single use. But what's interesting is the people who value sustainability, environmentalism, have found ways to serve drinks into the customer's reusable product, whether it's making the drink in a ceramic or a paper cup and pouring it into their device or their drinkware solution. So people are finding a way to reflect their value. So we're less concerned about that not being accepted. We're working on solutions and kind of some recommendations for our cafe customers of how to use reusables in the COVID world. We think it's going to take 6 months to a year for the business to come back kind of at the outdoor retail level. However, we know that people are still going out and having experiences, whether they go camping versus flying to Hawaii. They are drinking coffee at home. Coffee sales at home, our coffee preparation products, our Porigami, those things have done quite well, and we think will continue to do quite well because people are, coffee is the world's largest legal drug, so it's not going away. And I think similar to, I think work has changed dramatically. Work from home, I think you'll see more people doing that 2 to 3 days a week. We've always kind of had a flexible work schedule at MiiR. We like to say that we hire adults and they're responsible adults and they can make decisions as to where they work from and get their work done. Obviously, there's collaboration that needs to happen in person. I don't think Zoom will replace that. I think it'll enable that and help, but the office and in-person meetings are really important for collaboration, for that transfer of energy. And I don't know if that'll happen until there's a vaccine. So I think that is, however long that takes, a year or 18 months, what have you. But we're optimistic, and the companies who have done well, so our corporate sales, the Amazons, the big customers, even some of the smaller ones, the people who have just financially been responsible and running a good business, they want to take care of their employees. They want to take care of their customers. So it's just shifted a little bit. So instead of shipping a master carton, to the Amazon office, about offering value-added services where we send it to employees' homes, as a thank you or a gesture. So it's just rethinking the business. But I think that's one of the most exciting pieces about being an entrepreneur is innovating. And sometimes it's more comfortable to innovate on your own timeline versus being forced into innovation. But I'm trying to view COVID as this opportunity to innovate and to rethink about the business. And the weird part is we all get to experience it at the same time, which is unprecedented, really.
Yeah, that's really, really well said, Bryan. Well, Alissa, Bryan, thank you for the gift of sharing your experiences in the middle of this crisis with us. You guys are both inspirational. You're both deeply purpose-driven, and you're folks that I really do admire. So thank you for taking the time, and thanks for sharing with the audience.
Thank you. Appreciate the time. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, Dave. It's been a pleasure.
You're very welcome.